Hello, hello, friends. This is David with No Chaser, and the winter depression beard is in full effect. Now, right now, it's pretty tame, but once it starts to grow any longer than this, things get unruly. Like it feels like it starts growing in different directions. Some spots have more hair than other. I don't know. Like my face basically becomes like the yard of a dead homeowner. So I don't know. I attend to it. I know I may have a little bit residual bedhead there. Sorry. I still need to shower. And I probably, when I should have showered and trimmed the beard before I did the video. But here's the thing I was up to doing the video and I knew I had to do it right away because easily 30 minutes from now, I could just be like, no, I don't want to do it and go back to being a sack of sloths because I'm 5 days clean and sober. And at least for me, in those early days, maybe up to a week, maybe up to 2 weeks in recovery and just being sober and clean away from drinking or doing drugs, energy comes at a premium. Also, interest comes at a premium because the thing is that I don't feel like doing like anything except drinking or using. And here's what's such a like one of the many things that makes it so difficult to either get out of the cycle of using drugs or alcohol, or when you get out, staying out of it in that early period is that like for me, for instance, I would have a thought that would come to me of drinking, and I start feeling like things percolating, and then I got a little bit of interest all of a sudden, or I feel a little bit more energy. And then if I ruminate on it a little bit more, maybe fantasize, just think about what it'd be like. It's not hurting anybody up here. I just think about what it'd be like. I'd feel even more energized. And then if I start making sneaky plans, like, well, maybe what if how could I get away with it? I feel even more energized. I just went from just feeling just absolutely dead and just out of it to now I'm just like I'm ready to do something. And I know this cycle because it's happened to me many times before, and dealing with that anhedonia, basically that losing interest in things even that you enjoy with the lack of energy, makes it so hard to stay the course. And what else makes it so hard is the obsession, and that's my topic for today. It took me a while to get there, but the obsession. Now, I did a video before about the obsession. It was about the power of obsession, how it could get you to do things, and it involved a story about me being on probation in an ankle monitor in Ham that led to a catastrophe. You can go back and watch that if you want the full story. It's pretty insane, but it highlights the power of obsession. But today I want to talk about the obsession, how it functions for alcohol and drugs, for addicts and alcoholics, how it functions differently than normal people's obsession. Because, normal people, if you think about obsession, they're obsessed with some new TV show, or they're obsessed with a game on their phone, or some new app they have, or they're obsessed with like just a new person, not in a codependent way, but they just there's something that they think about a lot. They're reaching for their pocket a lot for the phone, or they just can't wait to get home to watch the TV show, or they can't wait to just talk to the person, or what they when the thing is not present, they think about it a lot. And that's normally what people would kind of codify as obsession. With alcoholics and addicts, obsession functions at there's much more horsepower to it, and there's also different aspects to it, because the obsession will compound, and the obsession kind of starts to drive itself. And what I mean by that is that it's not just about having a lot of thoughts come to your mind. That would be one thing if I had a bunch of just thoughts about drinking come to my mind. It'd just be, okay, this is laborious, but just stay the course. Just think of why you're not going to do it, and think of the better things that you'll have. Just okay. But it's not just thoughts. It's that in those thoughts, if you just give it like a little leeway, you give it just a little bit of extra time thinking about it, it will start to build and snowball like incredibly quickly. To like kind of what I said, the cycle or the little process of thinking about it and maybe doing a little fantasizing, or just, I don't know, having ideas, and then maybe starting to think about putting those ideas into reality, and then you have plan making, and I mean, all of that can happen so incredibly quickly. Like, I know that because it happened to me a lot before, and I've talked to others. It's happened to them too, whether it's just like I was doing pretty good. It was just a couple days out, and man, it just seemed like there was just one morning where I went from, okay, I'm so committed to not doing this, to I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I shoot one thought away, like a fly around a horse or something, and I shoot another thought away, and then one I just gave a little bit more attention to, and then like literally 20 minutes later, I'm at the liquor store, and what makes it really unfair is that in early recovery, that obsession, it will be there, and again, you don't have other things to really, I mean, you do have other things, like, don't get me wrong, there are definitely things to do to combat it, but it has to be combated so quickly. Like, I used to think it was like, okay, if I, really start thinking about it and then I start plan making, I should call someone. And the truth is, I need to, like, if I keep fighting the thoughts and they're still coming, I need to talk to someone even then. Like, usually I would reach out when it was DEFCON 9, and by then it was already too late. And again, that process can happen so quickly, in my mind. And the other part is what I was getting back to, is that what else can you do about it, is because, again, this tricky thing about, if you're trying to stop drinking or using, or you just recently stopped and you're trying to just stay on the wagon or stay the course, is that usually, again, going back to normal people, they're obsessed with something, and they need to distract themselves from it. There is the other interests and things that they have, in their life, or there's other responsibilities that they have generally the energy for. But with addicts and alcoholics, early in those days, your brain is so kind of racked and depleted in certain areas that you don't have the interests in it. Like, it feels like there's this obsession that you have, and then there's nothing else your brain is like thinking about that, like, it piques your interest. It's like, okay, I don't, keep thinking about drinking all day. When I get off work, I got to do something. Oh, you know what? I'm really excited to go hiking. Now, normally me, like, sober for a couple of months, I mean, that can happen. That has happened before. But it feels like earlier on, it's like, oh, I don't want to go hiking. Nature, ugh. Like, I love nature, by the way, but that's what it feels like. And, there's this obsession. To me, it's not quite, what I'm talking about here is not quite craving. It's not just that intense sort of like drive to do something. It's more so this thing that, the way, how it feels sometimes, it feels like the early process when you've lost, like, your keys, when you're like, wait, where are they? And you look in the normal spot, and then you look in the other spot they might be, and then one other spot, and then now, I mean, they're not completely lost, but you're starting to kind of run out of, places they could be. And so you're like, okay, to me, it feels like that, but there's no keys to be found. You don't need your keys at that moment, but it's kind of on your mind. You're like, where, like, almost like, people think about, like, when they're at work and they're like, did I leave the oven on? And it just kind of like stays there. And you're like, no, I didn't. I'm just being, I'm just being crazy. I always think this, it's stupid. I just get it away. And then, it might stay with you, but it's like for alcoholics and addicts, that thought of the oven being left on, it just takes a little bit of rumination, and you are immediately out the door in your car. You're taking your lunch break, spending all of it just to go back and check on the oven that is not on. And, in feeling this, it's just, it's a laborious process, because, some people do, they, like I said, it has to be kind of combated at the thought level before it's really started to turn into something. And so people do like thought stop techniques where, like, I know one of the more popular ones is like a rubber band. Like the thought comes up and you hit yourself with a rubber band, and it may seem like, crazy vigilant, but that's kind of how it has to be for a lot of people, because the obsession will just kind of float. It'll run in your mind, kind of like a background program of a computer or something. But however, if you just click on that program, it'll start loading, and if you don't cancel it before it loads, all of a sudden you're lost. Or I mean, you're doing something that, this was a tricky analogy. Basically, things can, something's on your mind, and if it's hard when something's constantly on your mind not to go a further step in thinking about it in your head. But that is, it's so much like a mental quicksand, because you start moving a little bit more in that murk, and then you start sinking, and then it's all of a sudden you're moving more and more, and you're sinking more, and it's just because you've kept a spotlight on it. And I don't know, it's one of those things where they all this type of stuff, is not dealt with in just one sort of scenario, like, or one place at a time where you fight these things, like obsession and triggers and cravings they all kind of happen in tandem a lot of times. They all kind of take their place in the miserable cycle that is the substance hijacking your mind. And even if you take that substance away, the destruction or the market's left, it's still there. That's the kind of crazy thing about it, is that you'd expect it when you're on the substance to completely change and alter your mind, and act in obsessive ways and act crazy and all this type of stuff. But what makes addiction what it is, the monster that it is that when it's gone, it is still like really affecting your mind, at least earlier on. Like its effect goes, it goes away over time, and then it could come back in spurts. But even earlier on, when you're completely flushed physically of it, it's still there. That was kind of a bleak way to end it. I mean, I don't want to end it there, I guess, but I don't have more to say, so I'll rather go with something truthful than just bore you with something else. But anyways, I hope anybody out there, you stay strong. If you're still in the cycle and you're not getting out, I wish the best for you. I know it all too well, and I'm just trying this thing myself. So anyways, keep strong and be well.